Hello, this is Stan Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. You know, of course, about the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, which was savagely set upon by Israeli forces in May of this year. Well, there's plans up ahead for another flotilla, this one to sail at the end of the year. And to get a U.S. ship as part of this, there's various efforts underway. One of them took place in New York Harbor. About 400 people got aboard a boat and cruised around New York Harbor in August. And on a smaller scale, this happened in Connecticut on the Connecticut River on September 14th.
I was in the Gaza Strip in 1998. And even in 1998, before the Second Intifada, before the election of Hamas into government, conditions were bad. I remember being invited to the Jabalia refugee camp, and I was invited by the family to have some tea. The tea in the Middle East is heavily sweetened. They like their sugar in their tea. And even with the sweetened tea, I could taste the salt in the tea. So the people are drinking salt water in Gaza. And the children's kidneys are damaged, the elderly are damaged. I was staying in an apartment in the nicest part of the Gaza Strip in Gaza City. I was paying $500 a month to stay there, which is an extraordinary, sorry. I use my hands when I speak. So I have to keep like this. It was in a very nice area of the Gaza Strip. I had a view of the Mediterranean. I was on the 5th floor. The apartment was gorgeous. It was 3 bedrooms. I didn't need all that space. But when I would take my daily shower in the nicest residential area of Gaza, there was just a trickle of water coming out. And by the end of the 5-week stay there, my hair was coming out in clumps, and my face had all broken out. Even the local vendors and grocers were telling me, even back in '98, this is going back 12 years, were telling me certain items were not available. I could notice the people are not healthy. They're not eating the traditional Palestinian foods, which a lot of it is plant-based. And so when Israel and the US and Egypt and the international community punish the people living in Gaza, they're mainly punishing children under the age of 16, because the majority of the 1.5 million people who live there are children. So you see stunted children, you see very high rates of anemia. It's a very disturbing experience. Also the poverty. Poverty imposed not just by capitalism, but compounded by a brutal occupation and siege. Sights that you wouldn't see in Palestine before. Children who are left to their own means in the streets. Poverty making people behave in ways that they would not ordinarily. Saudi money trying to come in and influence internal Palestinian politics. Men who are deprived of their livelihoods, and some of whom cannot navigate the brutality of the occupation, so they take it out in the domestic zone, higher rates of domestic violence. All these issues compounded. So it was a very, very difficult experience for me. And that was back in '98, again, before the Second Intifada, before the election of Hamas. After the election of Hamas, really the Gaza Strip was hermetically sealed. Even in '98, I remember crossing the Eretz crossing, and what the Israelis have done is they've built a passageway with barbed wires. It was sort of what you imagine for cattle to walk through to get to their pasture. It looked like it was built for cattle, for cows. And that's where all these thousands of men had to wait every morning to see if they could get into Israel, to get a job, to feed their families. So that was the memories I have. And now, as we all know, the situation is even worse.